Poorest versus richest NFL players. Big shout out to Red Zone for the video about to react to. Excuse my background, my boy back there grinding. Let's go.
If someone is in the NFL, there's a good chance they're absolutely loaded. I mean, the lowest possible contract a player could get is $795,000.
Damn, for real?
So they're already doing better than 99% of the world. But NFL players come from a wide variety of backgrounds. Some grew up in places poorer than you can ever imagine.
They were homeless?
Others were born into sports royalty. These are the richest and poorest NFL origin stories. And obviously, we have to start with Michael Orr.
Wow.
He had such a hard life, it turned into a movie.
He had a blind side.
It did. But there's more to his background than just the blind side. Michael Orr grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, as one of 12 children raised by an alcoholic, crack-addicted mom since his dad was in prison. Yeah, that is pretty rough. So he spent most of his life bouncing between foster homes, friends' places, being straight up homeless. He had a very impressive 0.7 GPA and barely went to school. And it's at this point that everyone thinks he got adopted by that nice, rich Tui family who helped him learn football and try in school. But here's the thing. In reality, Orr was already making up for bad grades, was named Division II Lineman of the Year, and on top of all that, they didn't actually adopt him. They told him he got adopted, but instead put him into a conservatorship, got legal power over all his finances and contracts, and basically stole his life story for a movie. The Blind Side made $300 million, and Orr never got a penny from it. Luckily, Orr made a ton of money in the NFL and is now suing the Tuies into oblivion.
Bro, they lied about his story and made a movie out of it on some lame trying to get money, bro. I ain't gonna lie, that's mad lame, bro. That joint just made me mad. I just woke up, that just started my day. I'm mad, bro. Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. This movie's one of the saddest movies, bro. When he had that scene when she was like, oh, what, you never had a room before? And he was like, I never had a bed. Bro, that joint made me cry, bro. That's sad as hell. Like, this dude really been through it, fam. You know what I'm saying? And for them to just take his life story like that, but hey, at least he made a lot of money in the NFL, so shout out to him. God don't like ugly. God gonna always prevail in the end, you know what I'm saying?
Honestly, I hope he wins. This dude was born in hell, saved by a family, and then stabbed in the back by them. Yeah, that's the real blind
That's crazy.
side. But getting screwed over by your family is one thing, because on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have Johnny Manziel, who screwed himself over. See, Johnny Football didn't fight his way out of poverty, because he was never in poverty. He was there to a Texas oil dynasty worth tens of millions of dollars.
Wow.
At least that's what he told everyone. And nobody argued with him, probably because he was basically a football savant. As a high school QB, he had 7,600 total yards and 75 touchdowns over 3 seasons, which are just mythical level stats. But in college, dude became the first freshman to ever pass for 3,000 yards and rush for 1,000 more. Manziel won the Heisman Trophy, Davey O'Brien, Manning Award, and more, all at just 19. And 2 years later, he was already getting drafted by the Browns. Now, while that's all unbelievably rare and impressive, there were some PR problems. In college, Manziel got held in jail overnight for fighting some NPC, got kicked out of frat parties, got parking tickets, and showed the cops a fake ID. None of that is that bad, but when he went to the big leagues, it got way worse. Because with an NFL paycheck, this dude absolutely flew off the rails. Mr. Football partied in Vegas, got addicted to drugs and alcohol, showed up to multiple practices hungover, impulse bought a Nissan GTR, got fined 12 grand for flipping off fans, and basically never followed any NFL rules, play calls, or went to team meetings. But the final nail in the coffin, a criminal investigation in 2016 into assault and domestic violence against his ex-girlfriend. And since hitting your girl isn't as popular as it was in the 30s, he got kicked from the Browns pretty soon after that. Now,
it's crazy, bro. That's the thing, bro. You can have all the money in the world, bro, but it will not buy, you know, purpose and happiness, bro. I feel like he was just a lost kid. He was so young, had so much money, had the world in his hand, and he just ain't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? That happens to a lot of people. That's why you gotta have God, bro, and have purpose in your life, man, so you don't crash out like that. Crash and burn.
Doing what every celebrity failure does. Doing podcasts, reality TV, and behind-the-scenes documentaries. And in one of those documentaries, he revealed that he was never connected to oil and just made it up to excuse his lifestyle. Apparently, he's still pretty well off, but nowhere near what he could have been. Bro had the most golden of golden tickets, a family to support him, and more than enough money to help, and he still couldn't save himself from himself.
Damn.
But maybe being spoiled was the problem all along, because Tyrann Mathieu's story isn't too far off. But his starting point was way worse than a fake oil family, because bro went through the ringer the second he was born.
I've been there. That's Louisiana. That's New Orleans, bro. I've been there before. That's crazy.
92. His dad was in prison for murder. His mom wasn't around. He was supposed to be raised by his grandparents, but they died. So he finally landed in his aunt's and uncle's place. Johnny Football would have barely lasted a day under those conditions. But it gets worse, because when Hurricane Katrina hit, Tyrann and his relatives lost everything. So they went homeless for a year. Even though that would have broken most people, Tyrann found a lifeline at school, playing cornerback in football. And since his back was against, well, not even a wall, he got stupid good at it. Like ranked number 13 nationally at the end of high school type good. He got into LSU, became SEC Defensive Player of the Year, and became a Heisman finalist. But just like Johnny Football, Tyrann wasn't ready for the clout he'd been chasing for a decade. And by 2012, he was failing team drug tests, getting arrested for possessing drugs, and eventually was dropped by the LSU team at a 5:30 a.m. press conference.
In college, he got dropped.
This is where the story ended for Manziel. Tyrann lived through a goddamn hurricane, so my man was not ready to give up. So he went through rehab, suffered withdrawals, and trained his absolute nuts off to get back on the team. And who would have thunk that hard work pays off? Because almost a year later exactly, he got drafted, and after 7 years in the league, got a fucking Super Bowl ring with Kansas City in 2020. But he had to fight his entire life to get to that level. And although
I'm telling you, bro, that's the thing about life, bro. Like, you know, you're gonna get knocked down sometimes, bro, but it's about how you get up and how you recover. And are you gonna quit or are you gonna keep going, bro? And he kept going. Look at him now, bro. Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, one of the GOATs, bro, for real.
Christian McCaffrey definitely had to work hard. This guy was basically destined to be great in sports. His mom was a D1 soccer player from a family of Olympians, and his dad played 13 seasons in the NFL, won 3 Super Bowls, and was still catching bombs from John Elway when Christian was taking his first steps.
Damn,
like,
I
Christian
didn't know
was
that.
basically genetically engineered to be an elite athlete, and on top of his genes, his family's worth like 20 million, so he had access to every facility you could possibly imagine.
He grew up
but the
rich.
actual crazy part, he wasn't a spoiled kid coasting his way to the NFL. No, Christian was Walter White levels of obsessed with being great, but that didn't come out of nowhere. His dad pushed him to limits that could be considered a little extreme, like grounding him if he got tackled when he was 7, instilling 6 a.m. workouts at a Diet Pie middle school, and taking his phone every single night before his 7:30 p.m. bedtime. Well, at least it paid off, because in high school, he was putting up video game numbers, 3,000 yards in a single season, 141 touchdowns over his career, and 9,000 all-purpose yards.
Oh my
so
God.
he basically got admitted to Stanford the second he started his senior year of high school, and he got even crazier at Stanford. Dude literally broke the NCAA single-season all-purpose yardage record that held for 26 years with 3,800 yards.
Bro, that's
Bro
crazy,
literally
bro.
put up 500 in a single game at one point. So when he got drafted 8th overall, no one batted an eye. Because when your coach is an NFL legend and your budget is whatever you want it to be, there's really nothing that can stop you. But if you were raised...
Wait, so you know what's crazy? Then why do people hate on Baby Gronk's dad, bro? Because Baby Gronk's dad, he does the same thing. He's pushing his kid to be great at football from what I see. And that's the same thing Christian McCaffrey's dad did. And look what it made him be. It made him be a superstar. So who knows? Maybe Baby Gronk will be the next, you know what I'm saying, NFL talent.
Like Des Bryant, there were obstacles around every corner. See, he was born in Lufkin, Texas, which you've probably never heard of because no one's ever heard of it. This is a place where trap houses are more common than gas stations. But drugs were the least of Des's worries growing up. He was born to a 15-year-old mom. And since his mom was barely past her freshman year of high school, he didn't exactly have structure in his life. But whatever little structure he did have was soon to be completely annihilated. Because his mom went from diner chefs to crack dealing just to make ends meet. Until Des was about 8, when she got arrested and sentenced to 8 months in prison. So at just 8 years old, Des became homeless. He bounced between relatives, friends, coaches, anyone who would take him in. There was no structure, definitely no support. But there was school, and at school, there was football. Football wasn't just his lifeline, it was his life. The only thing that gave him what no one else was willing to, a chance. So Des took that chance and ran with it, literally. He racked up so many yards in high school, they called him the X-Man. At Oklahoma State,
that's
he
hard.
racked up
That's
over
a hard
1,400
nickname,
yards
bro.
and grew so big that Deion Primetime Sanders even began coaching him and serving as a father figure he never had. But just as the NFL was about to bend over, Des got suspended for lying about visiting Sanders' house because the NCAA thought an NFL rep might have been there. Luckily, Des was still a god-tier receiver, so once the suspension was up, he dipped from the NCAA, went to the NFL, and made 3 Pro Bowls, led the league in touchdowns, and pulled over 7,500 career yards. Not bad for a kid who grew up watching his mom get locked up and sleeping in a different house every night.
It's crazy, bro, too, man. Shout out to him for making it out of that, and shout out to his mom, bro, for getting through. Like, it's crazy, bro. Childhood traumas really affect us so much, bro, because you see him on the sideline during games. He'd always be crashing out, trying to fight somebody, yelling. A lot of times, bro, that's just your inner child, bro. That's crazy, bro. That's wild, man. Shout out to him, though, for making it out, bro. Say, that boy just need a hug, man.
Nick Foles could have slept in a different room of his Texas mansion every night because he grew up loaded. But his parents weren't NFL royalty or elite athletes. In fact, they weren't involved in sports at all. They owned restaurants? Yeah, the guy who beat Tom Brady was raised by the founder of a ton of restaurants, including the Eddie V's chain. That's gotta be the most random upbringing of all time. And it was also one of the easiest, because they sold Eddie V's for $59 million. So there's literally no pressure on Nick. But he he didn't have the Manziel party attitude or any attitude, really. He was just some kid who liked football. Like, really, really liked football. Nice. He went to the same high school as Drew Brees and turned him into just another statistic. Really liked football. He went to the same high school.
Where's Drew Brees? I don't see Drew Brees. I don't see
was Drew Brees and turned him into just another statistic, like breaking almost all of Brees' records. And after a solid college run, he got drafted in the 3rd round. No one's first choice, but a draft is a draft. Although he was never viewed as a serious NFL threat, but the signs of him pulling off a win against Tom Brady were always there. Like in 2013, when he went absolutely psychotic and threw 7 touchdowns in one game, made the Pro Bowl.
What, bro? Are you telling me Nick Foles threw 7 touchdowns? You're freaking lying, bro. Nick Foles has the record for NFL touchdowns in a single game? Hold on. Oh my gosh, in 2013, he actually did. Wait, so he has the, hold on. Oh, Drew Brees, Nick Foles, Peyton Manning, and Joe Cap all have thrown 7 touchdowns. Damn! That's a lot of touchdowns in 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and 49. That's 49 points just off passing touchdowns, bro. That's freaking crazy, bro. Wow.
And dropped a 27-2 touchdown interception ratio. Like what? This man grew up playing football for fun, then hacked the game and started sniping receivers. And he didn't even have to go into the sport. But he had the arm, the funds, and no pressure. So he just grinded because why not? But not everyone has that freedom of choice. For Najee Harris, there was no choice. There was just survival. See, he wasn't on the edge just because he was born in the rough part of the Bay Area. He was also the youngest of 5, with a single mom who worked over 12-hour shifts. Pretty average start. Well, it became not so average when the rent shot up and they lost their place. And then losing every place after that. His entire family got evicted over and over and over again. They lived on couches, in cars, and even in a van during his middle school years.
What?
Eventually, they landed in a shelter in Richmond, California. No beds, barely any food, and water that tasted like straight metal. Which meant Najee, at the ripe age of 12, had to go out and scrounge for food and water. And since he had to grow up at such a young age, he had to think about his future early on as well. And for him, that was football, a way out. His family moved to the most dangerous part of Antioch, California. And there, Najee began his grind. He would go to the local high school stadium at 10 p.m. just to run through cones, sprint on the track, and drill himself on the field. The little man was grinding like Rocky in the pitch black. And it wasn't long before his high school coaches noticed how far ahead he was of the other kids. Because this kid trained 4 hours a day, rushed 3,000 yards back-to-back, and became the #1 recruit in the country. Then he became a national champion and a first-round NFL draft pick. But what Najee did when he got drafted is what sets him apart from everyone. Because on draft night, he didn't go to the green room. He went back to the homeless shelter he grew up in.
No
and
way.
threw a party for the kids still stuck there. Because for Najee, this draft wasn't about getting an NFL paycheck. It was about making it out and showing those kids they could do it too. Man, it's gonna make me tear up.
Fire,
but no one's crying for how Matthew
Shout out
Stafford
Najee
got
Harris,
treated
bro.
growing up. And honestly, there's barely anything to say about him. He was just your typical rich kid. His dad was a former college athlete turned finance bro. And when Matt showed potential to be a QB, they literally moved to Dallas just to give him a shot at elite high school football. As much as I want to hate on this rich kid, that's insane. Being so good in middle school that your parents moved zip codes to get you better teammates. And the place they moved to, Highland Park, Texas.
Oh, I know that.
Regardless
I've
of the
been there.
wealth, it was the right move. And he walked right into the middle of a football dynasty. Got coached by Randy Allen, and by 2005, he passed for 4,000 yards and 38 touchdowns, taking Highland Park High School to a 15-0 record in the state championship. That year, he was ranked the #1 pro-style QB in the entire country. And although he certainly has talent, he really owes it to his parents, coach, and a neighborhood where the only crime is a middle schooler loitering outside Walgreens.
Now that's crazy. I didn't know his childhood was like that, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's wild too because I don't know, bro. To me, Matthew Stafford's like a mediocre quarterback. Like, I feel like he's just there and he just always just does what he needs to do, but like he's not that great. Go in the comments. Let me know if y'all agree. If y'all know what I mean.
Lamar Jackson owes his success to just one person, his mom. Lamar didn't have that hard of a life for 7 years, but then it hit him like a Raven's Blitz when he was 8. His dad died the same day as his grandma, and so he and his 3 siblings moved in with their mom. He picked up football while living with her, but with no father figure to guide him, it seemed like it might be just a hobby for him while he focused on school. But Felicia Jones was not going to let that happen. If Lamar wanted something, she probably would have bent the space and time continuum to get it for him. So she became his coach and trained him. But not like drove him to practice trained, like set up cones, ran drills, memorized plays, and yelled at him until he got better trained. And as anyone knows, nothing is more motivating than your mom yelling at you. At 8 years old, he could throw 20 yards. At 11, he won the South Florida Youth League Super Bowl. And get this, he wasn't just the QB for that team. He was also the kicker and the safety. So at 11, he became the only QB ever to throw every touchdown and kick every extra point. What a f***ing beast. From there, he pretty much played football like it was Madden on rookie mode. In high school, he put up 2,200 passing yards, 1,600 rushing yards, and got offers from ACC, Big Ten, and SEC. But he ended up signing with Louisville, so I guess all his intellect went to football. Well, I guess it didn't matter what he chose ultimately, because he got the Heisman as a sophomore, broke more records than ankles, and he's now a 2-time NFL MVP with more rushing yards than most pro running backs. But at the end of the day, he never forgot his mom. When he got drafted to the Ravens, he literally chose her to represent him over every recommended agent. And to this day, she's still in his corner. But Andrew Luck,
that's dope, man. That joint, that got me emotional, man, because that's family right there, man. FOE, family over everything. That's how family's supposed to be, man. You know what I'm saying? Supporting one another, bro. And look at him now, man. You know what I'm saying? God is real, bro. That's crazy.
Had the entire NCAA in his corner. See, Luck was another one of these guys born into an NFL family. His dad was an NFL QB. But Oliver Luck wasn't just an NFL QB. He also ran the entire NCAA, served as a GM of 2 NFL Europe teams, and was the XFL commissioner. So Andrew basically popped out reading playbooks and bylaws. And since his dad was on the European teams, Luck grew up in Europe, low-key dreaming of being a soccer player. But when they moved back to the US, they settled in Texas. And as we know from Nick Foles and Stafford, football is a religion down south.
Texas is crazy,
switched
bro.
hobbies
They love
fast.
football.
At Stratford High, he was a pretty insane QB, but he ended up at Stanford somehow. Why, you might ask? Well, Luck didn't just have the high football IQ. He was a genius on and off the field. Bro was literally breaking school records while maintaining a 3.9 GPA.
Oh, wow.
He took both of his skills to the next level at Stanford, becoming a 2-time Heisman runner-up and studying architectural design. And when the NFL came knocking, he got drafted number 1, and he became the best nerd of all time. Bro went to 4 Pro Bowls and took the Colts from 2-14 to 11-5. He even started a book club for his team and fans. But after some of the most painful injuries I've ever heard of, like a lacerated kidney, he retired, became Stanford's GM, and got a master's in education. Now that's a rich kid we can all get behind. But while Andrew Luck grew up in a pretty chill foreign country, Tamba Hali grew up in a literal war. Tamba may not be a household name, but getting to the NFL from where he started matters far more than any social media clout. Because Tamba grew up in Banga, Liberia, a place where children bathed in the river and lived with no running water or electricity. And while that is already worse than anything most of us can imagine, when he was 6, a civil war broke out and engulfed the country. Tamba literally grew up with machine guns tearing through nearby buildings and bodies lying in the street. The concept of safety for him was just that of a concept. At just 10 years old, his dad decided to flee the country with Tamba and brought him to New Jersey, leaving behind Tamba's mother for 12 years as the war raged on. When Tamba got there, he couldn't speak English. As you might imagine, he got bullied for all of it. But then he discovered the gridiron. On the field, no one cared where he was from or how he spoke, only what he could do. In high school, he was a 5-star recruit. At Penn State, he was a Big Ten monster named Defensive Lineman of the Year. And by draft night, he was the 20th pick in the first round. Then he spent 12 years wrecking QBs and racking up 6 Pro Bowls for the Chiefs. A dude who used to run from war, being paid to chase people down? Bro, I would have walked right out of the stadium if I was a running back. And then in 2006, after not seeing his mom for 12 years, he secured a 1-year visa. The last time she saw him, he was barely in middle school. Now, ripping offenses in half. Damn, the fucking arc, man. But this next guy didn't grow up dodging bullets. He didn't grow up dodging anything aside from horseflies. Cause Connor McGovern grew up farming French fries? Yeah, you might be wondering how a completely unrecognizable name like Connor McGovern is on the rich side of things. He was born into the family that runs Artie Offit Farms, aka the family that supplies McDonald's, Wendy's, and Frito-Lay with their potatoes. Connor's dad runs the operation, and his grandfather is the potato mogul behind the empire worth $500 million. But despite being the heir to that throne, Connor grew up in Fargo, riding harvest trucks, pulling tubers, and picking potatoes every year. But aside from that, he never flaunted his wealth. He just hunkered down, farmed, and worked at football until he was a lineman at Missouri. When it got out that he was richer than Tom Cruise, he didn't care. For Connor, he had pride in it. He knew his family had worked hard to reach that point, and had been given a small loan of $1 million, which is the mindset Connor had with football. He wanted to work for something. His family clowned him for it, since he could have made more money in the family business, but he knew what he wanted. Now, he's got a $27 million contract with the Jets, and has been one of the steadiest centers in the league ever since he signed. Sure, he's got more money than most celebrities combined, but he earned every dollar, one fried-fueled bench press at a time. But primetime couldn't afford to be guzzling French fries.
I like that, bro. When people grow up rich and they still want to work for theirs, they don't want to just live off mommy and daddy's money. Like, they want to actually grind and go get it. I respect that big time, bro. I got some friends like that, you know what I'm saying?
Eyes in his childhood, because he couldn't afford really anything. Deion Sanders grew up in Fort Myers, Florida, in absolute dirt poverty.
Oh, he's from
His parents
Florida? I
split
didn't know
when he
that.
was 2. His dad was lost to
That's where I
addiction,
live.
while his mom worked like a machine to pay bills. And at 7, Deion realized he was living like a crab in a bucket, as he calls it, because if he tried to climb out, someone would pull you back in. So he learned very early, if you want to make it, you gotta run, literally. He used to sprint barefoot across the street to catch the bus in time, and when that bus pulled into the rich part of town, his mom would point out the mansions and tell him there's a different life out there. So he made a promise to himself that probably changed his life. I'm gonna make it, and I'm gonna shine so bright even God can't ignore. That is where Primetime mentally was born. And the name? It came from a time he played pickup basketball in 8th grade, dropped 30 points, and a teammate said he was Primetime. From then on, Primetime was
so he got his name from
nickname. It was a
basketball?
mission. So while most kids played sports for fun, Deion used every game as an audition. In high school, he played football, basketball, baseball, and track.
That boy
And he
Deion
scored
went
in every
different,
single
bruh.
one. He didn't have a dad in the stands or a training center like CMC. He just had pure hunger to be great. And by the time he hit Florida State, the rest of the world finally caught on to what he'd been building for years. Broke the record for punt and interception return touchdowns and became a 2-time All-American. When it was
Damn.
time to get drafted, it wasn't just for the NFL. It was for the MLB too. Bro played 9 MLB seasons, won 2 Super Bowls, and became so dangerous on the field that QB stopped throwing to whatever side he was covering. He still holds the NFL record with 19 return touchdowns. And he made the Primetime
Damn.
brand so big, it still got that name recognition 30 years later.
From his son.
Primetime's not the only name that'll live on forever in the NFL, because the Manning name has already been around for 50 years.
My favorite quarterback, Eli Manning, man. I met him a couple times. He signed my ball for me. He signed the helmet, bro. And he rated my IFL highlights. That dude's a legend, man. Shout out to him and Peyton and his dad, Archie, right? Or Arch. And then don't they have like a, damn, isn't there like another one that's in like college? It's like so many of them. Damn.
And Archie Manning is the one who started the legend.
Yeah,
but even
Archie.
though he made bank in the NFL, he made sure his kids never grew up easy. Because Archie sure as hell didn't. His dad killed himself when Archie was in college. And instead of falling apart, Archie promised that his kids would never feel that kind of pain. So after the NFL, he moved the family to the Garden District of New Orleans, aka Bougie Paradise. He put the word champions in bold on the front fence and raised his kids like they were in a quarterback lab experiment. No pressure. Luckily for Peyton, he was built different from birth. But despite that, and despite having access to an absurd amount of money, he spent every day with his dad in the film room watching football tapes. He was
Wow.
memorizing plays since he was 10, and in high school, when his older brother Cooper got injured as QB, Peyton took over. He threw for 7,000 yards and 92
Damn.
touchdowns, and gave the time a 34-5 over 3 years. But behind
Wow.
him by 5 years was Eli. And Eli got the same treatment.
Go.
Tape watch with dad, train every day, memorizing plays like his life depended on it. And even though he may not have quite have reached the level of fame that Peyton did, at least he got the satisfaction of being Peyton's passing record in high school with an astounding 7,400 yards.
There you go.
The Manning brothers are a rare case of growing up rich where money wasn't involved at all. Only a dad who committed maybe a little too hard to making his sons as great or better than he was. But
There you
Shannon
go.
Sharp didn't even have that. All he had growing up was his siblings and his grandma who raised him in some of the harshest conditions out of anyone on this list. Because he
Wow.
wasn't even raised with a wooden spoon. Shannon grew up in a tin roof shack in Georgia. There was no
What?
installation, no hot water, not even plumbing. All he had was
Really?
cement floors and a single fireplace to heat the whole thing. And what did they live on? $197 that came in every 2 weeks from his grandma's nursing home job. They literally had to choose between lights or gas and picked whichever didn't shut off the fridge. At one point, a robber broke into their house, and Shannon still jokes that they were so broke they robbed the robber. They didn't have a single meal guaranteed, and the idea of bathing wasn't even in the picture. Literally, the first time Shannon ever showered was in high school, and he didn't even know how to use it. While living in that shack, they still attended school, and as with most other poor upbringings in this video, that's where football came into play. His brother Sterling played it first, and that's where Shannon got the idea, because he saw Sterling get something he didn't have. Hope. So even though he wasn't the fastest or the strongest, he worked harder than everyone to be good. Every Sunday, he watched Monday Night Football on TV at a friend's house with Sterling, praying they would get their shot. For Shannon, that shot came from Savannah State, a Division II school with no height and barely any scouts. However, Shannon couldn't have given less of a and jumped at the opportunity. That was all he needed. He destroyed the record books, broke out of poverty, and showed the NFL what you're capable of when your back's against the tin shack wall. He got drafted in the 7th round, and once he hit the league, 8 Pro Bowls, 4 All-Pro
Damn.
selections, and 2 Super Bowl rings. The man grew up without running water and became the gold standard for tight ends. And when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he put it all on his grandma.
Aw. Yo, big shout out to Shannon. I didn't know that was his life story. I know obviously he's super popular and famous now, but it's so cool to see where people came from, bro, because it makes you like respect where they are in their hustle a lot more, man. Crazy, even if they grew up rich, but the fact that you grew up rich and still decided to grind, that makes me respect you a lot, because you could have just said, you know, I'm gonna just kick back. So that's super dope, man. Hey, big shout out to Red Zone real quick. Let's do our health check on the channel. But yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Hey, real talk, bro. Like, we here, you know what I'm saying? We've been uploading every day for like the past 4 days, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep going and keep grinding, man. I love y'all boys so much. Thank you so much for the love and support. Remember that you are chosen, so move like it, and make sure you always put God first. I see y'all on the next one. It's your boy Eli Mack. Peace.